Welcome back to Equal Time Soccer. We're live for an Aurora pregame, and I'm Mark Pavratsky, and I'm going to let my co-host Dani Foxhoven Young introduce. We have I didn't even know we'd have two special guests this morning.
And yes, we're getting a little... Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. I have my son Ao with me today because he is refusing to go down for a nap. So everybody's going to get to meet him. But more importantly is one of my best friends and my personal ride or die, Kat Williamson. She and I played together at the Portland Thorns many years ago, but that is just the beginning of Kat's very honored career, if you will. So Kat was a captain at the Portland Thorns. She played for Rochester back in the day. The Flash. It was the Flash.
Nailed it.
Yeah, the Flash. And then back to the Portland Thorns. And now you are killing it in working at Nike. So you've just had a very storied career, and we're honored to have you on today.
Dani, I got to open every morning with a meeting with you because you are gassing me up. I feel great. It's so nice to see your face.
Yes, it is. So, Kat, I know that you have been out of the soccer world for a little bit. Before this call, Kat and I talked about how she hasn't watched too much soccer as of late because we all need a break after we're done, But Kat, we're going to step back into your W League years really quickly because you played for many different teams in the W League while you were in college, correct?
Yeah, well, I played for Canada.
Ottawa Fury.
Ottawa Fury. He knows it better than I do.
Yeah.
Here's my history. Yeah, I played for Ottawa between my junior and senior year in Florida, which was great. Okay. Awesome experience for sure.
And you went to the University of Florida as well. Okay, yeah. So just to prime that up for everybody.
Yeah.
How did you get connected to Ottawa then? Because that is not a connection that
I know
comes easily.
It was interesting. I think the coach Dom Oliveri reached out to my head coach at the time, Becky Burley at UF, and expressed some interest. And I had never played soccer in the summer. I always took like a break away from it to come back for preseason. As Dani knows, we go back quite early in college to start training and get all of that in around July timeframe. And Becky thought that it would be a good opportunity for me to kind of experience the semi-pro environment and be able to grow my game a little bit. So he reached out to me and we kind of arranged it, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. That was like my first taste of, football outside of college.
And when you were there, because we're seeing the same thing here, where a lot of girls are coming in, just for the season, and you had exposure to a lot of other players. Like I know you played with Courtney Wetzel there too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So they brought in a lot of outside players. You guys all got to play together. Was that kind of your first time playing with players outside of, your college team or your club team?
100%. And it was incredible. We played like Pally Blues. We played the New York team. So Leanne Sanderson was on those teams. A couple of my former college teammates were. So it was Nikki Washington. I mean, a lot of the teams were pretty stacked. And so I was really excited to get that type of experience. It was the first time outside of the NCAA players that I had really had the opportunity to grow a little bit, which was great.
And at that time, there was the WPS was around, right? Is that right?
I want to say so. Yeah, the NWSL definitely wasn't. We didn't have that until 2013. So I think it was maybe that hyper league where WPS might have fallen at that point, and then there was like a year.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, which is why a lot of those players were there then.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, and I think that kind of speaks to what we're seeing now, like where USL is trying to make this, as Mark said after the last game, they're actually looking to make this like a reserve league sort of for NWSL. So like Aurora actually just made the playoffs, and we'll be playing. It's Indy 11, but will there be Louisville Racing will have a team kind of in the playoffs too? Is that right?
They've been in contention, and then the North Carolina, they have a U23 team that's been in the league. So it definitely has brought quality to those divisions, because I think Aurora would love to get to play a team like that for sure.
100%. It's almost like a feeding system, right? Like a feeder team up into the pros. So I think that's amazing.
Well, and I think it just speaks to, like, at the beginning, there was like 8 teams that everybody could play in, even at the professional level, and there really wasn't a ton of options. And now, looking at the way that the women's game is going, there's, we're looking at a potential feeder kind of system, which would be really to see.
Oh, it's a huge testament to the growth of the league and the interest in people actually wanting to see it and be part of it. It's super positive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure. Aurora, that's something that everyone knew. I think the team would get some support. I was close to people who were making the team, but the level of desperate support for this team is really, raising the $1 million, and they cut it off. I say that because people would have kept investing in the team, and the fact that it's turned into the thousands of people at the stadium. Yeah. Can you imagine, Kat? When was the first time you got to play in a crowd like that? We've had games with 6,000 that have outdrawn some of the NWSL, which is just exciting to see, because if people have the chance, they clearly want to support women's sports.
And it's incredible to hear that. So Dani was telling me a bit about it before this call, and she was saying it was drawing 6,000, 7,000 people. And I remember back to my New York days, we were lucky to get, 1,000 at times, maybe even 500. So it's incredible to hear how much interest there is. It's something we always knew, but I think the way that it's marketed, the way the players have invested in themselves and diversified, their portfolio and what they can bring, it's the game itself, I think, is worth investing in from a women's standpoint. And it's nice to see people catch up and recognize it. It's a really cool thing, especially as someone who was playing in stadiums with 200 people. But,
and this summer is showing it too, because one weird side effect of the Men's World Cup being moved to the winter in Qatar is that this July is all about women's soccer. So there's the Women's Euros going on ESPN right now. And then the CONCACAF W Championship, where the U.S. women, not surprisingly, but they've already qualified for the World Cup. And so, but it's really amazing to see. And just locally, I have to say, Mexico is hosting it, and they're one of the up and coming teams, but Haiti and Jamaica both upset Mexico. So, it just teams getting opportunities to show, where the game is growing. So that was really, and I kind of wanted Mexico to make it through, so I feel bad, but that's a really exciting thing for Haiti and Jamaica, for sure. What, Kat, talk about what you're doing now with Nike, because that you've found a way to be in the sports world working for Nike. I'm just interested to know what you get up to over there.
Oh man, what a question. After retirement in 2016, I've had an interesting journey within the Nike ecosystem. So I started in footwear innovation, where product actually is created, 15, 20 years in the future. So it's all about ideating around what product could be. Brilliant people in that function. Not for me. I'm like, this outside of where my brain works. So I realized maybe I should get away from product creation and into brand. And so I made the transition into communications back in 2018, and then spent a little bit of time in global brand marketing at Jordan Brand, Michael Jordan's company, which is in the same umbrella. Spent a few years there, and then recently came to what's called Catalyst Brand Management. And essentially that's just our external partnerships with entertainers, designers, that type of thing. And I sit within what's called relationships. And the way to simplify it really is how you have sports marketing and a representative for athletes. Essentially, I kind of help be that conduit between entertainers and designers and Nike.
Which, to be fair, Kat's personality, Kat is one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. I think I don't know a single person who hasn't walked away and said, I will always remember that night with Kat. That is that is Kat through and through. So I feel like this is the perfect role for you. Happy for you.
Love you. Thank you.
Do you have a problem, Kat, that when you describe your job, people just say that sounds like the coolest job in the world? It sounds like, you know, heavy influencer talk, heavy, you know, it sounds pretty chill.
Yeah, no, not chill, not chill. But is amazing. I will say, you know, as difficult sometimes as it can be and time consuming, it's a really cool thing to be able to truly impact change and with the projects that we work on and try to really do more than just sell product. You know, that's what we have to do as a company, is invest in communities and have authentic and genuine connections to people. So that it's a cool thing to be part of, for sure.
Yeah. Well, in Nike, it's not a superficial thing all the time. I mean, there's a lot of times where sports ads really actually do lead at the point of an issue. I mean, Nike especially will step out and, you know, they'll make, you know, I know that like women's national team players have been at the forefront of some of those, you know, ads. So I mean, it's a platform that reaches a lot of people, and Nike, you know, does it pretty well, obviously.
Yeah, as we should, you know. I mean, I think we have an opportunity, and we should be able to do those things and draw awareness to issues that really need to be seen. So very proud to work for the company and fortunate.
Yeah.
So Dani, we got to go back before 5 knee surgeries ago, and we need to learn about Kat's game. And we need to. I like to hear it both ways, Kat, because I need to hear you also talk about what Dani was like as a player and maybe how she. Did you guys end up matching up because you were playing?
Love Dani.
We always played against each other. I was forward, she was center back, and I feel like we brought out the best in each other.
I hated playing against Dani. It's the worst. You had so much skill and you would never stop moving, and I hated that. I just liked a stagnant forward. That's just what I really gravitated towards. So Dani made my life miserable at times. So.
Well, I will say Kat was somebody, like, unlike any other player I have ever met in my life, where in soccer you have to run, you know, for sometimes 120 minutes, and fitness was such a big thing. And I would go out for these, like, you know, I'd go out in training and run, like, okay, I need to run, you know, 5-6 miles or whatever. And Kat, I'm not joking about this, Kat would run 1 mile and then would be like, I'm done. But here's the thing. I never made it to 90 minutes, and Kat would make it through 120 minutes, and she would be like, you know, slide tackling. She'd catch up with anybody, with Sydney, Alex Morgan. She could keep up with anybody. And she made it all the way through, which is why you were a captain. You like did your stuff, and then you were kind of like, this is Kat. Like you never changed who Kat was through it. And one of the best defenders I've ever met, you know, I've ever played against.
Well, ditto, my friend. And, you know, fitness is always, that will never change for your girl. So that and pull-ups, you know, you can ask college coaches, club coaches. I have never enjoyed running, and I cannot to this day do a push-up. So it is. I am who I am.
Send her back to the spot. And well, it's frustrating though, Kat, because when you're defending like the forwards in practice, where like you had some big ones there. I mean, Dani, and then also, you know, having Sink and having Alex Morgan. But in training, you can't foul them. You know, like in a game, like you just say, I'm done with it. Well, I mean, then maybe you do.
Yes, she absolutely does. Kat is not somebody to take it easy ever. She's never going to take it easy. She will always go cleats up.
We can say
cleats up.
Sometimes. You know, I try to play it clean, but, you know, you want to make sure that your teammates are prepared. The other defenders that we're facing aren't going to take it easy. And to be fair, you guys did not take it easy on us. So
no, that's true.
It's true.
It is something.
That's why we won that year, though, to be honest. I mean, you know, that was like the mentality that we all had, especially. So Kat and I played together the first year, which is when we won the national championship. And yeah, that was the mentality that we all kind of had, you know, especially like Kat was going against Alex every day and Christine Sinclair. And I'm trying to think about who else, you know, I mean, there was some big Tobin. I forgot. Yeah,
we had
halfway through the year, you know, so there was no room for slacking any day.
No, unless you wanted to get absolutely ripped to shreds in practice.
Yeah.
Nobody likes that. So
Yeah.
We talked about this, Kat. We got to get your input on this because for Dani and yourself and some of the other amazing women we've met doing these pregame shows is you were played in the tough times of the league. And so, I mean, the fact that we're seeing, a summer league team get the attention that Aurora is speaks to how highly, the NWSL has grown too. So beforehand, you mentioned a little bit of your side gig responsibilities when you were playing. So to the people who see the big national broadcasts and the big stadiums now, just remind the people how you got through those years.
Man. I mean, it was interesting. So like, I'll preface by saying my senior year in college, I was injured the entire year. So I wasn't anticipating to get drafted. I was thinking like, all right, I'll show up and try out maybe, but I had forgotten that we played a couple preseason games against North Carolina, which Cindy Parlow-Cohn was an assistant at. And so I guess she had remembered that game and decided to take me first round, which thank you, Cindy. But I didn't even watch. So first off, the draft at that time, it wasn't televised. It was via Twitter. So you would find out via a tweet if you were drafted. And it was crazy.
Big leagues.
Yeah, big leagues. Now you watch the WNBA, there's like an orange carpet. People are like celebrating, which is amazing. Yeah. But, we had to watch Twitter to find out what our next life step was. Yeah. And if you were me, I slept through it. I didn't even wake up. And so I wake up to like my teammates calling me like, dude, you were taken first round to Portland. And I was like, I'm going to Maine. I'm going to Portland. Holy shit, like, let's go. And then I figured it was Oregon, which was great and was one of the best things to ever happen to me. But when it came down to what the environment was, I think Dani could also back me up on this. We were very fortunate with the Thorns. There's no denying that the Thorns were head and shoulders above a lot of the other NWSL teams. So I want to preface with that. We were fortunate in that regard. But I think that there's always things to improve. And I know that at that time, my contract as a first round pick was $7,000, which was, but for me coming out of college, I'm like, guess this is what it is, and then, which means that I have to work in the off season. And I became really good friends with Marion Doherty, whose husband owns a dental practice here in Portland, Oregon. Doherty Dental, for those who need a dentist in the
Still loyal.
West. Plug. #Cat10 as a discount code. But I had to work there as a front office gal. And the funniest thing was we had this Thorns poster that we all signed that's framed in their office, and people would come in and be like, are you Kat, like from the Thorns? I'm like, yes, and welcome to Doherty Dental, and how can I help you today? And that was just how it was. And it was a grind. I'm not gonna lie, like it was a grind, because I think a lot of people have this kind of false understanding that like, if you say you're a pro athlete, it's like, oh, wow, like first round, wow, you're living it up. I'm like, dude, I'm eating ramen and working 2 jobs. So yeah, I mean, builds character, but it was tough at times for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like that $7,000. It's kind of like how I was in a band in high school and got paid like $100 twice to be in, and I was like, I'm a professional musician, you are,
It does not feel right.
You're like, it's not paying most of my bills. But.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Cindy did give me a bonus after the national championship, was very kind. And I think that, she was trying her hardest to make sure that she was fighting for us. And I think everybody has to start somewhere. And we were doing the best that we could, but to see the minimum actually raised now, and women coming in, and they're honestly like having a union, a players union. I think that that's a huge thing for us that like we didn't have back then. So it's promising. The future is bright and promising. And I hope that if and when I have a daughter, she has a better, more successful and better opportunities than I did back in 2013. So that's the goal.
Well, and then, I'm curious about, because you've seen it from coming out of college, you've been in the W League, you've seen it at the beginning, then you went from Portland, which was like, the top of the tier, to Rochester, which, they had a stadium, but, the infrastructure was a little bit tougher. And then you went from there, then back to Portland. Can you kind of talk about how you navigated going through that big change? Because now contracts are a little bit longer, where they're, we can stay with this team, maybe we'll be traded, but a lot of players are able to negotiate, like, I want to stay at this club.
Right.
At the time, we weren't able to do that. So, at any day's notice, you could be traded to another team and have to be there in 24 hours.
Right.
And then when you came back to Portland, you then became captain. So can you kind of navigate how your career went and how you navigated it?
Yeah, that's great questions, Dani. So, I mean, I found out, so 2013, obviously we win, Cindy moves on, Paul Riley comes in. I had never played with Paul before. And I think whenever a new coach comes in and you don't know them, there's a lot of players who are like, all right, how's this going to go? Paul loved fitness and very blue collar, and that just fitness was not my thing, per Dani's comment earlier. And so he did not like me very much. And I was like, is what it is. So we go through preseason, and literally the very last day you could trade someone, he calls me in, and I'm like, I know where this is going. Didn't think I was going to Western New York Flash, and was traded there. And so I had to pack everything up, move over. And it was, that was a character building experience. It was tough. We were based in Buffalo, but we would play in Rochester, which was an interesting kind of logistical nightmare at times. But I think, the infrastructure, as Dani mentioned, wasn't quite as strong. And, while I think our team was incredible, we had the likes of Sam Kerr, Carly Lloyd, Abby Wambach. I mean, so that's what I really took from that experience.
AD too, right?
Yes. Yep. Or no, AD might have left by the time that I got there. It was Lydia Williams, actually.
Okay.
Yep. Wow. But we had a bunch of talent, and that's what I took from that experience, was like, how do I actually push myself and be able to take advantage of the opportunity that I have right now outside of the environment itself. And I will put a lot of credit in Abby Wambach's hands for that one, because she taught me a lot about how to be a leader, how to individually motivate people based on their individual personalities. You can't just berate someone if they don't like to be berated. There's some people who like to be encouraged. And so she definitely taught me a lot in those short 7 months. And then I got the opportunity to come back to Portland. I made it pretty clear that I wanted to be traded back to Portland. And it ended up working out, and I got back. And I don't know if the 5-0 beating of the Thorns when I was on the Flash helped, but Paul took me back and said, I want you to be the captain and all of that. So that's kind of how I got back and, ended my career with the Thorns. But it was quite the experience there.
Yeah,
talk about making that decision to actually retire, because I'm sure it was tough. But I mean, we talked about the challenges that came with at that time. So and you mentioned still maybe not watching a ton of the game. I mean, because it's such it's a process to go through. It's personal. So I'm just curious, how you made that decision and kind of what the early challenges of that were for you.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a great question, because for me, I was recovering from my 5th knee surgery at that point in time. So I had torn both of my ACLs when I was, once when I was 15, once when I was 18. And then I went into Florida with a torn patella and didn't know it. So I got redshirted and had to get a microfracture surgery. And then before my senior season, I ended up tearing my meniscus. So I had to get that repaired. So that's 4 there. And then 2016, I think like the 2nd or 3rd game of the season, I retore my meniscus, and I had to get 80% of it cut out. And I think when you're faced with that, and you're not making as much money to live off as you possibly can. And I didn't like running. It's like, I love the sport. I think I've given everything I possibly can to it. And now it's about me figuring out where my life goes afterwards, which, that portion after retirement is actually pretty difficult, because you're losing a piece of your identity that you've had for 20 plus years. And you've been in the top 1% of your field. And now you're going into a corporate world where I don't even know how to write an email. And I'm going into Nike, which is like the epitome of corporate. And I'm like, how do I say good morning? Like, I don't know. And so there was a huge learning curve that I had to go through after that and find out who I was after soccer and, my place. Essentially, I was starting in corporate 5-6 years past when everyone else was. Right. So, it was an interesting time in my life to navigate all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And maybe having your body actually set a limit for you, maybe that makes it simpler in a way that where you're like, look, I mean, it's more obvious, when you're like, I don't have a choice.
Well, I was like, if I want to walk in 10 years, I think we got to call it, like it's time.
I would say especially when you weigh it with, like, you hit the nail on the head with the money. The amount that we were simply making was kind of like,
why am I doing it?
Worth my body? Yeah. Is this worth putting my body through this? I'm not sure it is anymore.
Right. Yeah. And previously it was just because you weren't breaking down. But at that point, it was a pretty straightforward and easier decision for me personally.
Yeah. I need to ask about one other piece of acclaim here, Kat, before we let you go, because we got a Hall of Famer here, Dani. We got a McKinney School District Hall of Famer. And
go back town
somehow, and I think playing for 2 different high schools in the district too. Look
at you doing your research.
First page Google, I think, maybe second. Don't worry about it. But
if it's the Wikipedia, my friends changed it to where I was traded for a Honda Civic. So make sure that there's no false.
Yeah, good for them. Good for them. What'd you get? Did you get a jacket? What'd you get, Kat?
Well,
you have it right here. What do you have?
Yes, I love that.
It's right here.
I'll just, I got a ring because everything's bigger in Texas,
That's pretty. That's the Hall of Fame one?
But also go Gators. Like, you gotta get a Gator ring.
What's the Gator ring? Did you guys win the SEC or did you win the NCAA?
We won the SEC. Yeah, a couple of times. It's where these bad boys lie.
I love that you have a special box just sitting right there for them.
And I prepped myself for this interview.
You wanted to reflect on your. She was sitting, Dani. She was reflecting on her career, on her greatness. But I love this, Kat, because we always ask players, because it's like, we talk to players who are all Midwest or whatever they get, and I'm like, what'd you get? Did you get anything? And like sometimes someone did, like once had a letter jacket, but yeah, I mean, you just had the rings. Were you at Florida when Tebow was there? How old?
I was, yeah.
Oh, wow.
We had the same academic advisor, and I realized I was a little too sarcastic because when I met him, I was like, "Oh, it's nice to meet you. Like, what sport do you play?" And he was like,
"Yeah,
football." I'm like, "Okay."
He doesn't have a sense. I don't think he has a sense of humor.
Right over. I was like, "All right, Tim. Great to meet you, bud." Okay.
I've always been really proud of Tim Tebow for doing his mission trip to a Christian country, and a country that is vast 90+% Christian already.
Super proud of you for that.
Spread the word, Tim.
I will say for Tim, it fit exactly what he portrayed in the media. He was never out at parties. He just had this obscenely loud scooter. Everybody rode scooters around campus.
Yeah.
And there was no muffler for whatever reason. And that was the one thing that drove me crazy, because you could hear when someone was coming. But he was a good dude. He didn't go out. He didn't do much. He just stuck to himself, and he was who he was. So
credit to him. Speaking of minor leagues, I mean, I respect to him that he just went and tried to play baseball for like 4 years after. I'm like, go and do that, man. I love it. Yeah.
Do what you want to do, man.
Yeah. Dani's getting ready to try out for Aurora next year, Kat. So Dani's
I'll be there on the sideline cheering you on.
She's saying no. She keeps saying no, but I think. Yeah.
I don't know. I think we could come back. How hot does it get during your games? Because that'll dictate how long she
Thank
wants.
you, Kat. Yes, Kat saw me. I will say Kat saw me at my lowest moment of all time ever, which happened to be the semifinal game of the 2013 run that we had played in Kansas City. And I think the Heat on the middle field got to 130, Kat.
More than that. There was no way. Our cleats were melting. Our cleats were melting.
Yeah. And I'll throw it out there. I only made it about 20 minutes in the game.
Bless Danny's heart, because when we were out there, I mean, I'm coming from Texas, Florida. Like I got a little bit of built up from the heat. I could take it a little bit more, but I look up 20 minutes in and Danny looks at me and no one's home. No one's there.
It's gone, yeah.
Red, and I'm like, we gotta help her. Someone's gotta come on this field.
We get a wet towel. We get some,
Oh, it was awful though. We ended up playing like 120 minutes. We went into overtime. I was begging to be subbed off. I was making eye contact, like.
We ended up winning that game in overtime, but honestly, I'm not sure. Even I literally got subbed off, I think, at 40 minutes, and I don't think I was able to watch the rest of the game.
Oh, I think I blacked out on the field. I don't remember. Hence, probably the goals they scored.
Yeah.
I love that.
We came through. We won.
Yeah.
So that was great.
So I'm sorry, Mark. That's gonna be that's the level. I cannot play in the humid heat here. So today's game was not for me.
Well, we have because Christelle Yewa is one of our players. She's in dental school. She's going to be busy being a dentist soon. Dan, you can be that third forward who comes in for 10 minutes. No.
There you go. That's my max these days for sure.
No, we appreciate you joining, Kat. The Aurora, this is their last home game of the regular season. They're going to have playoffs next Wednesday, and the tickets are on sale. Everybody, you should buy them now.
Buy it.
They're going to sell out. The last few games have all sold out. So
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Well,
I'll try to catch a game in person at some point, but appreciate you guys bringing me on.
Yeah, we'd love to have you, Kat.
I love it.
I'm glad, Kat, we did our work as friends of Danny too, because we helped AO get to sleep. We helped him.
Yeah, he's out now. So
you're welcome.
He's over it. Fun. He doesn't want to hear your glory days stories anymore. He's just
like, I'm out.
So cute. Love it. Danny, good to have you and the family. Yes. And again, Kat, thank you so much for joining us. Pleasure to have you.
Appreciate you. Bye, guys.